Hi, Nandita. So,
Hi.
Nandita, you first come to Bristol as an international student. And as we know, it's a big decision to make to study overseas. Would you like to share what was it like when you first came to Bristol, first came to Manor?
Before coming to Bristol, I was in the UK for a year. I was doing a foundation course. So UK, by then, in a year, I had made some friends. But when I came to Bristol, I was the only one coming to Bristol from my cohort. So it was still a whole new experience. And as I went into Manor, it has an imposing structure, quite nice. And there were the junior common room committee people, and they were super friendly. So I was a little nervous coming in, but because they were so friendly, and I had gotten a corner room at 3 West, and the room was so nice. It was a nice, bright, sunny day. It did feel really, really good, and there was high anticipation. So the initial start was good, and within the first evening, I had met my friend who I remained friends with for the rest of my Bristol years, and we are still best friends.
Right. During your stay in Manor, you have been playing a very active role in the community, in particular in the junior common room and also the charity committee. Would you like to tell us more about it?
Sure. I think for being a member of the junior common room committee, I have to really thank my predecessors. They were so nice, so friendly. And they made the living in hall so lively for me that I really aspired. Like I saw Lewis, he was the president in our time in my first year. And I thought, oh, I want to be like him. I want to be like him. So me and my friends, we kind of thought like, oh, let's take over the JCR. Is that possible? Let's all run for different positions. And that's exactly how it happened. We all ran for different positions, and I even competed with one of my closest friends for the presidential position. I ended up becoming the vice president, and my friends took on different roles, treasurer, archivist, and whatnot. And towards the end of the year, I even became the president for a good few months. And then that was during my second year. And during my third year, my best friend, the girl I talked about, who we became friends the day I arrived at Bristol, she left for France. And I thought, why bother find a new place? I would just stay back in Manor and be relevant. And I really like organizing things. And JCR, we had new JCR members, and I joined the charity committee then as I forgot the role, maybe vice president. I don't quite remember what was the role, but I was a very active part of the charity committee and hall committee afterwards.
So from you first coming here, finding your fate to become a vice president of GCR, what encouraged you to do so?
I don't know about others, but for me, it was really easy. I found it easy to make friends at Manor and at Bristol in general. We had a lot of differences. Like if you want to label it, how people label other people and how othering is done this day and age. So age, race, color, language, interests, it was all different, but we were such good friends. And that made it easy. I have always been the sort of person who goes for things. So I wanted to do the election, and I kind of went ahead and convinced my other friends that let's go and do this. This will be fun. And I liked being in a leadership position, organizing things. And like I said, the previous JCR members, they had thrown in such interesting events, and they were so multifaceted and all-rounded. Like if you don't like to drink, there is something for you. If you don't want to dance, there's something for you. If you're having Chinese New Year, there's something for you. So they thought about everything for everyone. No one was left behind. And I think I loved that bit. That made it really easy for me to fit in at Bristol and at Manor. So that's why I went for something like that I want to be part of that group where you make newcomers feel so good, so integrated. And that's where the strength came from that, I really want to do it. It seems interesting. So I made posters, my friends helped in putting the posters up. We had little events where you had to say why you want to become the president or the vice president or any other position you want to go for. And it was quite an interesting experience because I was not a big drinker, not a big party goer. I would be everywhere, but not doing too much, anything too much, right? So that kind of gives off the vibe that why does this girl all of a sudden wants to be a president or vice president, because she seems otherwise bubbly, but on the easygoing side. And I felt that it's about how much you can organize people and how good you're at organizing events rather than how good fun you have in a certain party, right? So I think I saw through the core qualifications required for that position and I went for it. And that gave me so much confidence. If you want something, you just go for it and you see what happens afterwards. If you don't get it, it's fine, but you can at least go for it. And Manor did provide me with that sort of a level playing ground where I could actually try things that I wanted to try in life.
As an international student myself, I know when we first came to a new place, it was difficult to initiate more friendship and connection. Would you see anything happened in Manor have been trying to facilitating the way we can make more friends?
I think so. I think because the events were like for the first 2 weeks, I don't know how it is now, but when we came in 2006, you'd have daytime events, you'd have evening events, you'd have evening events indoors, you'd have evening events outdoors, you'd have alcoholic, non-alcoholic. So wherever your interest falls, there are events like that where you can go and meet like-minded people. So I thought that was really helpful. I'm a very outgoing sort of person, and I've always made sure that wherever I go and talk to people. I'm not shy when it comes to talking. Maybe one disadvantage I had is my height. Most people were taller than me in a bar. It's quite loud, so I needed to shout quite a bit. Aside that, I didn't find it that difficult. And I think it's mainly because when we do the planning, or when the previous GCR did the planning, they had everyone in mind, people, their background, and the sort of restrictions they might face based on their backgrounds, or the sort of facilities they might need because of their background were taken into account while organizing these events. That's why I think it's easier to make friends in Manor if you have a little bit of courage to come out of your room. And I remember when I was in my first year, the vice president came up to my room a few times and asked me, especially in the first few months, that is there anything that I need help with, if I'm okay? And even when I became the vice president the following year, I had a list of international students, and I had to go and check and make sure that they were participating in some of the events. And if they were not, is it because it is something that they are not allowed to do, or don't feel comfortable in doing, or it's not something they're enjoying? If they're not going out, why aren't they going out? So there are specific things planned to make sure there's equity in terms of having a scope and having the scope and opportunity to come out and meet people. I think if you didn't do the planning like that, it wouldn't have been easy for people to mingle, especially if you've come from a completely different culture altogether, right?
Yeah. So once you completed your study in University of Bristol, you get on becoming the economic advisor in Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office in Bangladesh. So would you like to tell us more about what your responsibility is there?
So I've been the economic advisor for the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office for almost 5 years now. And for those who do not quite recognize it, this is a department for the UK government, and previous DFI, the Department for International Development, and Foreign and Commonwealth Office, these two departments merged last summer, and they became that department. So when I joined the office, I joined as part of the old DFID as an economic advisor. So my day job requires ensuring that the ODA, Overseas Development Assistance, that is spent through Bangladesh office is spent effectively. So I look at different programs, I look at their effectiveness, if they're running efficiently. I make sure the projects are not spending way more than it's supposed to in terms of procurement and pricing. I also make sure that we have enough researchers commissioned to identify whether what the project actually intended to do is doing. My specialization is in development economics. So the programs that I'm involved in involves health, it involves education, and it involves poverty reduction programs. I am also part of the health sector program in Bangladesh. FCDO funds into the health sector program. So I represent my office in the health ministry in Bangladesh to make sure that the financing is spent equitably.
So to what extent do you think your experience in Manor inspiring you to take those responsibilities now?
I think Manor is probably like if you're in university or halls and like the whole time in university is probably the last best time to be yourself and excel in certain qualities in yourself. So I think the fact that I was allowed to and able to and facilitated towards going towards whatever I wanted to achieve, whether that's the elections or whether that's throwing a fundraiser, those things that developed my character and defined who I am. Manor was a very international hall, so it really made me think in an inclusive manner, right? Like my current job is to make sure that British taxpayers' funds are spent effectively and equitably. And if you remember the sort of events we used to organize in Manor Hall, we really have to put in all our thinking together, work in a group, so teamwork. I was in a leadership position, so leadership came with it. And then you had to make sure you were responsible for the funds because the funds were audited. And then we had to make sure that if whatever event, ball, party we are throwing, if it's for a certain type of students, maybe majority of students, but there are still some students, maybe 5%, will not want to take part in that, then what is the alternative option? Or what are we doing extra to make sure that these people feel comfortable coming in too? So that's the same thing that we apply in designing our projects. The projects are primarily for the poor, but not all poor people are the same, right? Even within poverty, there are deeper pockets of poverty. So when you do a value for money analysis, you have to make sure that it's efficient, if it's effective, it's economized, and it maintains equity. I think the basics were there. I probably didn't think that whatever I'm doing, like in 2006, 7, 8, planning parties will help me now, but the basics were there.
The past years is quite a difficult time as a global pandemic. Would you like to tell us more about what your department at FCDO were kind of involving in doing during the pandemic?
So, I mean, FCDO works in many different countries in the world, right? Like the foreign office side of it operates in all countries, and the different part of it, the development part, works in over 100 countries. So in Bangladesh, I can tell you what happened in Bangladesh office. What we did, we tried to convert all our existing programs towards programs which can respond to whatever the need was given the pandemic. So especially in the health sector, we were really able to support the government in ensuring we work with the multilaterals and the government in ensuring that we had the right equipment, right protocol, right plans in place to do the quarantine process. So what will be the process when people come in from outside? What will happen when someone has corona? How would the hospitals manage it? So FCDO currently is the development partner lead. So all the development partners, say Australia, Canada, whoever is investing in government sector plan has a consortium, and FCDO is currently leading that consortium. So being the lead of that consortium, not myself, our health advisor is the consortium lead. We really have the position to help the government and the multilateral bodies like World Health Organizations, UNDP, World Bank. We work together with all these multilateral and bilateral partners to make sure the essential equipments, procedures, protocols are in place. And we also converted our programs into COVID response programs.
Yes. So, and you mentioned there are some new needs. due to the pandemic. And
Definitely.
to talk a bit more, especially in terms of, let's say, health or education in the
Mhm.
area.
So let me give you a little context of Bangladesh, right? So in FCDO, of course, because we work in so many different countries and different country contexts, so we always get information about what's happening throughout the rest of the world. We get a weekly update, but let me give you a little bit of background on Bangladesh. So Bangladesh has been doing really well for the past decade and a half in terms of growth, right? And because of the pandemic, obviously the growth rate has come down a lot. And it is estimated that about additional 15 million people will fall into poverty because of COVID-19. The pandemic's direct and indirect effect has been very severe in some of these highly densely populated countries. And Bangladesh is in a stage where economic activity really requires a lot of person-to-person contact. So because of the type of economy we have, we really need to meet other people to get the work done. The service sector is not that big. So a lot of people don't get to work from home. The sort of job they do is not something you can do from home, which is making it really difficult. Last year, we also faced one of the worst floods in the past decade, and there was a cyclone. So it seemed that everything came down all together. That's your economic side. And in terms of health, I think we never had enough doctors according to need, but thankfully the death rates are not that high, not as high as we initially estimated. Something to do perhaps with the population demographic. We have a really young population, so the death rate is thankfully not so high so far. But schools have been closed since last March. Now this is coming to a year of not having education. So government has taken some initiative, but it is feared that these children would lose good years worth of education, and learning gap will be huge once they come back to school. There are some initiatives, but it's not applicable for everyone, and it's certainly not enough.
What kind of help your department deliver to these children? Would you like to say?
So we have a program called Strategic Partnership with BRAC, and this is an unearmarked funding. And what they did, we have had a contract with them for the last 5 years, and what they have been doing, they started radio schools where children can listen to radio broadcasting, localized radio broadcasting in schools, as well as the government-run televised classrooms. And they also used very frugal technology. They used a dumb phone, and these dumb phone teachers will use a dumb phone and call 4 students and have classes. So they prepared a compact compact, what do you call curriculum. So it doesn't have everything, but it has the essential English, Bangla, a little bit of maths. And they call students, 4 students at a time, and the teachers would give them lessons and do a follow-up, do tests, and all this is non-touch. So they're not coming in contact with anyone while taking these lessons. It took a while for it to start up, like the first month. I think by April, May, this initiative had started. So this is one of the initiatives that's funded by FCDO. It's not 100% funded by us, but we have funded large portions of it.
Yeah, so is there anything your team at FCDO were helping with the vaccination program? Is anything?
So basically, because we are part of the health sector consortium, so our health advisor is directly involved in these matters. So whenever these decisions are taken, we have to take part in the meetings. We have to provide technical advice, given we are asked for it, and the vaccination plan as and when it would be done. So in the rigorous matters, we have our representatives working in that, and we have to stay on touch with what's happening at all times.
Thank you so much for sharing this experience. And before we finish, is any advice you would like to give to the international students now in Manor and in Bristol University?
I would say like the friends I made in Bristol, I'm still very good friends with them, and it's they I call when I have really tough times, in my lowest times in life. I get in touch with them, and the fact that I'm so far away really doesn't matter. So take your time in investing and make friends if you have the opportunity. This year is particularly difficult, and next year probably going to be as well. Don't know how long. So it's probably a really difficult time for young people now, both economically and socially and emotionally. But I do hope that you have the opportunity to make lots of new friends and explore the opportunities that the university and the hall has to offer. Uh, Try and be yourself. And I think Manor has the sort of culture which will support you to become a better version of yourself in future. And one really odd but simple advice: please do not undermine the power of sleeping properly, eating 3 meals a day, and writing in plain English, not using jargon. Like, well, once you have worked for 10 years, you'll figure that at university, had you not messed up your sleeping pattern, your body would have been your best friend by now. But I think people figure it out once they get a little older. So that one might be just a wasted advice. But anyway, enjoy yourself. This is the time.